Okay, today I'm going to be talking about skeletal mesh level of detail and transferring blend shapes to lower resolution models. I'm going to show a quick demo here. I'm just going to open up this guy over here. So at the moment on level of detail 0, he's got 18,000 vertices. And if I move, if it becomes a little bit smaller, level of detail 1 kicks in, and that's 9,400 vertices. And there's level of detail 2 with only 2,000. And then I've also transferred the morph targets, and it's only using one control. So now I'm controlling level of detail 0. I'm just going to set all of these. And then, as he becomes smaller again, there's level of detail 1. Also, the blend shapes have applied to him as well. And if I move a little bit further, level of detail 2 does not have those blend shapes applied. Because usually that will be really small and typically really far away and not so easy to see. So I'm going to show you the way that I do this. So I'm going to start in Maya. And I'm going to create the level of detail first. So first off, all of your meshes need to be top level. So they must not be grouped. They must not be in a group. And these guys do have animation as well. They're skinned. So all of the meshes here are skinned. It's comprised of multiple meshes. It's obviously the fish geometry, the teeth and the eyes, which are all skinned to the same skeleton, which is over here. Now the skeleton isn't going to feature too much here, and then there's obviously the rigging controls that I use to animate them, which are also not going to require here. So the first step is to create the level of detail. So currently there's 14,000 vertices here in Maya. So I'm just going to go to the edit menu. I'm going to use the level of detail here. I'm just going to use this generate level of detail meshes, ensuring that I'm ticking copy skin weights. I like to only use 2 for characters. The first one is half of the LOD 0, and then the lowest level of detail is going to be 90% reduced. All the other settings here I leave at default. I don't touch them. But sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it breaks the material, so then you have to do it again. But this time it did work. I'm just going to give it a save. So here LOD group 1 was created, containing multiple levels of detail. And you can see as the highlight here changes in Maya. Currently it's level of detail 1. You can also see now the vert count is 7,000, and there on the lowest level of detail is 1,300, and you can also see the geometry changing there. So this is the first step. So if I were to just take this now and just test it in Unreal Engine, I'm going to export this. I'm excluding animation because I don't want to test that now. I can import it, always import it later. Just going to call it fish3_skm for skeletal mesh. Now animation ticked, no deformed models. Deformed models is ticked. So I just want the level of detail here to go along. Interesting to also note here is these guys do have shapes already, which I'll get to in a second. So I'm just going to jump over to a little test level here. This is the guy we created earlier. I'm just going to remove him. Import the one that I just exported. Fish3 SKM. So here I'm going to choose mesh skeleton, I want morph targets, and I want LODs. I'm just going to hit import. I'm also bringing in the materials. I just bring it into this little test map just to make sure everything's working, or working as I expected. I don't want to bring this into my game and then have to restore from backup if something goes wrong. Once your import mesh or re-import mesh is broken, you're pretty much stuffed, and all the hard work you put into creating your animation montages and your blend spaces all have to be redone, which is a huge pain. You don't want to do that stuff again. Just giving my shaders a chance here to recompile. Once that's done, I'm just going to open up the mesh and just check that everything imported. So he's complaining here that the materials don't have the morph target set on them. But first I want to just check the level of detail. So there's 0, 15,000 triangles. There's 8,000 on level of detail 1. I'm going to make this a little bit easier to see for myself. So I'm just going to change the screen size here to about a half. And then the next one to 0.3. So there's level of detail 0, 15,000. There's level of detail 1, 8,000. And there's level of detail 2, 1,900. So they did import. It also imported my morph targets, which were created in Maya. So I have a few shapes here that were done previously for character customization. In a second here I'm going to show you how to transfer these to your level of detail 1. I'm not going to transfer them to 2, only to the next level, because 2 is going to be really, really small, almost not even visible. So these just control various features of the mesh. And what will happen now, if you change these morph target values here, first of all the shaders are going to recompile because they've automatically set their properties to work on morph targets. Let's give them a second. Now if I move to LOD 1, he jumps back because LOD 1 does not have those morph targets set. More clearer if I maximize all these morph targets. And then go to LOD 1. There's LOD 0, LOD 1. So currently it's not propagating, obviously. So I didn't tell it to. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So the first thing I need to do is ungroup the level of detail group using this ungroup LOD group. Then I'm just going to be working with LOD 0 and 1. Just creating a new save. Minimize the stuff I don't want to see right now. So these shapes here need to be replicated. There's multiple ways to do this, of course. I just find this way fairly simple. There's obviously scripts as well that you could probably buy and download or whatever. This is my way to do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the shape here on level of detail 1. I'm going to duplicate it as many times as I need shapes here. So that's 8 times. I'm excluding the angry eyes. So these will not be skinned, they won't have any skinning information, it will basically just be a flat object or whatever. And the next step I'm going to do is just quickly rename these to match the shape that I want them to match up to. going to save. The next step is to transfer the attributes. So this is the way I do it. I'm going to start with the eyes horizontal. So I slide over the blend shape to maximum, or set the weight to 1, and then I select the make sure to select LOD 0 first, and then the duplicated mesh that you've got here second, and then I just use transfer weights. Actually, before I do that, there's something else I'd like to do. I want to create a blend shape on this geometry here, FishGibble LOD 1. I want to add a blend shape here. I want to make sure that it's, and this is in a reverse order from bottom to top, but blend shape is actually before the skin cluster. I'm just going to call that blend shape the same name as the one that was as the main or LOD 0's blend shape, but just with LOD 1 as the blend shape name. I'm going to do the same for the eyes. So the right eye and the left eye. Just creating the empty blend shapes along, because I'm going to be adding targets to those now. And then the left eye. So now they have blend shape. Blend shapes added to them with no targets. And I'm going to do the targets. So I select the geometry, high level geometry, LOD 0, and then the LOD 1 geometry that I just duplicated here, which is currently has no blend shapes, blend shape targets on them. Then I'm just going to use this transfer attributes here. I just want to save. Right. Transfer attributes. I'm only interested in vertex position. Vertex normal, UV sets, color sets all off, and I'm using the UV sample space because both of those guys meshes share exactly the same UV space. If they don't, then you'll have to use another space. So my sample space is UV. All of the other settings are default. I didn't change them. So if I hit transfer here, it changed it, right? Which you can see there. But now if I were to slide this guy back, it would also slide back the geometry here. So what you need to do is you do need to delete history just on this guy. So I've got a shortcut set up for that. But you would go in here and just delete by type history. So I'm using this Alt-Shift-D, and then these guys here are going to collapse. So now if I slide back my blend shape, the one that I created here is still where copied. The next step would then be to go and add it as a target. And once that's done, just changing the name to exactly match the morph target for the LOD 0, otherwise it won't work. Once the target has been added, you can actually remove this target here, you don't need it. And now if I slide this here, it's actually the LOD 1 geometry that's getting deformed with that blend shape. So you need to repeat this for all these meshes. So I'm just going to do that quickly, or as quick as I can. So next I'm going to be doing the eyes vertical. Deleting the history. Then cheeks horizontal. Delete the history again. Now it's the mouth. Jaw size. It's important that you remember to slide back the previous shape, otherwise it's going to take that into account too. So make sure that one worked. Yeah, he's getting smaller, you can't really see it. I could do this. Okay, those targets haven't been added yet, of course. This is going to be working on that view, never mind, I'm just getting confused. So fin shape. Alright, let's do, I think I've done fin size. Alright. Okay. Next is the body size. Okay. Now I'm going to be adding those targets to the level of detail blend shape. If I made any mistakes, I'll be able to just to redo those targets fairly easily. So I'm just using my left arrow here to pick, walk, sibling, and then I'm just choosing selection as target. Once that's done, I'm going to remove these guys here and then just quickly test these one by one. So that one's not working. Fin size, I'll have to redo him. Removing the name here, it has to match exactly the same name as the LOD 0 morph target. Otherwise it's going to show up as a different morph target in Unreal Engine. So this guy wasn't working here. Fin size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete. Just going to duplicate this again, save. Just duplicate this guy, give him the shape name I want, make sure the selection order is correct, slide up the deformation I'm after, transfer the attributes, and then delete the history again. And now I should be able to just add it as a target here. I'm gonna just make sure I put it in the same order, although I don't think it matters. So now this one should be working. Shape and size. Alright, once those are done, I'm gonna do the eyes. They go much quicker. So I'm going to do the left eye first. There's two shapes I'm after here. The horizontal and vertical shapes. So for the left eye, horizontal first. transfer the attributes. Delete the history. Make sure to select LOD 0 first. And then I'm just going to add these to the left eye shape. And then I don't need these target meshes here hanging around. I'm just going to test these at the same time. So it's doing a diagonal, which means it's doing left and up. I don't need to test them one at a time, even though I just did. Okay, then the last one is the right eye. So LOD1, duplicating the mesh you want. I'm just naming him the same name as the shape, so it's easier not to make a mistake. I'm doing a few of these today, and it's easy to make a mistake. So the first thing is, let's slide this over. I guess you could script this up if you were so inclined. But I don't really want to mess with trying to script this shape editor. And I know getting a handle of on these some of the UI elements aren't that easy. If it's not like built into Maya, it's pretty hard a lot of the times to get hold of it. So transfer the attributes here, and this is really not that much work. So the next, the last step is just adding these targets in here. So selection as target, selection as target. Keeping the same name, and now I can remove those guys and just test. Just going diagonally, so that's good. Give it a save. So now these blend shapes have been transferred over to my LOD1. The next step is to simply recreate the LOD group here. So I'm selecting 0, 1, and 2. Create LOD group. Once that's done, we just select the group. That's selecting the root of my spine. I'm just exporting this. I'm going to be overwriting the previous mesh that I had here. I'm not ticking animation, although deformed model skins and blend shapes, all that stuff's still coming along for the ride. This is complaining about constraints. There are constraints on here, but I'm not exporting them. I'm not using them at all. So I'm just going to drag this guy in here. This is the one I just exported again, and it should overwrite it. This happens sometimes. I've seen that error before. So let's test, set all of these up. I don't need angry eyes. So that's LOD 0. LOD 2 kicked in and jumps down, and there's LOD 1. There's LOD 2, LOD 1. So something didn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import it again. That's great, it doesn't tell me which name it's looking for. So one of them are wrong. Let's see if I can figure it out. They look the same to me. Interesting. This is what I was afraid of. If this happens in game, you can break your existing assets, which I don't want. You see what happens if I just import it again. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell me which morph target it's looking for. Just says could not find the morph target for LOD1. Make sure the morph target matches with LOD0. Doesn't give me the name that it's looking for. So what I can do is just check one by one. I'll start with body. It's body. So it's body size. So I'm just going to redo that one. Might as well check. Oh, it's busy recompiling now. The name is the same. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete this guy. And I'll just redo him. Unfortunately, this process isn't error-free, and you'll find most of the processes regarding this stuff is not error-free. It's just how it is. So I've got my duplicate here. I'm going to give it the right name. Selecting LOD0, then LOD1, and then using my transfer attributes. And then deleting the history and just adding it again here. This time I'm not going to change the order. Just want to test it. I forgot to slide the body size up. That helps. Okay. Right. All right. Recreate the LODs, LOD group. Just overwrite the previous FBX. It's It's going to complain about constraints, which I don't mind. I'm just going to re-import it here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's still got an error. Let's see if body size is at least working now. It's still not working. So I'd recreate this entire process. I'd redo it if this happens. I've done it a few times now already. So for a few other ones, I just redo it for all of them for that guy. Because there's something wrong probably with the blend shape itself, the blend shape object, and once that happens, you got to do it over. I'm just waiting for this project to open. Always takes longer when you're busy doing other stuff. So here's one of the other ones. That I did earlier. And their LOD is set pretty far, but you'll see it. There's LOD 1, there's LOD 0, and there's LOD 2, so you can see the jump there. I mean, that's pretty far away. So this is the same process I used here. I did have to redo it once before. Sometimes it just doesn't always work. But when it does work, then at least if you do make changes, it should just keep working. That's why I always have backups of everything. So you can see there, it's also keeping its level of detail. And then the effect of that in game. Let's see, not all of these have it set. Who's got the most deformation here. I can use you. So if I move further away from this guy, his head's snapping there because I've moved away from his focal distance, so that's just his head. So at one point his texture is going to change. There we go. There's LOD 0, there's LOD 1. Because LOD 1's material is also different. So he's keeping his shapes now. You can see some of these other ones are popping. I haven't done all of their LOD 1 blend shapes yet. And as far as the material goes, for LOD 0 I'm using the substance material, which have been modified slightly to also include a color mix so I can darken. But then for the lower level of detail from LOD 1 and 2, I use so these guys here, LOD 1 and 2, they all use this lower res material, and this is simply a material instance. which only provides base color. So it blends and darkens the base color in, but it has no other textures for metallic, specular, and roughness, where the LOD 0 materials do. Cool. Gonna have to redo that guy that I did for this demo, but then yeah, I think that wraps it up. Thanks for watching.